A very good morning to you. Welcome to the morning brief right here on Channels Television. We're broadcasting live from the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos, which is our global headquarters. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
It's Monday, August the 18th. Good morning and a warm welcome. I'm Kayode Okikilu. Jeffrey.
It's good to have you back.
It is good to be back.
All the intensities.
Like I never left, though.
Yeah.
But not to worry, Bukola will join us subsequently. Just road issues. Mondays are usually quite hectic. If there isn't traffic, there is either the vehicle that chooses to just give up at that point. So here's wishing you a Monday morning that is free of any funny eventuality. But it's going to be a very busy week, Jeffrey, because we had a very busy weekend across the country.
It's going to be very busy and perhaps quite eventful.
Yeah.
In fact, the month of August is going to be super, super busy. Things that has to do with elections, things that have to do with constitutionality or otherwise of those elections. And I am a bit worried about what is going to play out in the nearest future, because some things that we're seeing looks like just kicking the can ahead of the road, not trying to solve the problem as it is. I can see literally booby traps, landmines all over the place. I'm not going to explain what I said, but we're going to reference this moment when it starts happening at the end of the day. But a couple of things we witnessed at the weekend, which was the biggest, which was the by-elections, happened in about 16 areas, 16 constituencies, both senatorial district, 2 of them, and about 14 states and federal constituencies. About federal constituencies, about 9, as well as about 15 state constituencies, and then the 2 senatorial districts in Anambra, as well as 1 in Edo State, to occupy seats of lawmakers who have either resigned or unfortunately had passed on, God rest their soul. So those seats had to be occupied. So INEC did their work. So it looks like this was almost kind of predictable from where I sat and where I sit, because I could see, and the reason I was able to predict that APC is going to pull this off is because I have constantly said that in terms of politics, let me contextualize, they've done better than any other party. Whether they are the ones responsible for the instability in other parties, as alleged by those parties, is a different kettle of fish. There's something that disunity and instability can do to you, that even when you have great chances, that can be ruined. So that's why we see APC taking about 12 out of the 16 results have been declared so far by the independent National Electoral Commission. For instance, in Edo State, APC took that seat in Edo Central. The person that will now replace the governor, who is now a governor of the state, and then you find by ABGA brought in that upset. So we now have 2 ABGA members in the National Assembly, Senator Inaya Baribe and the gentleman who won yesterday. So that's how things are played out. So for those of you who are not familiar with what's going on, there was a by-election. By-elections happen when people resign their seat or people die whilst they were in office. INEC will have to conduct election to fill those seats. 16 seats were vacant, and eventually, of course, the election took place yesterday. Out of the 16 seats, so consider the Senate, the House of Reps, the House of Assemblies across the states of the Federation, APC won about 12, leaving the remaining 4 to every other person to share the spoil. I was even thinking I think there's a gentleman that died in Rivers State a long time ago. I don't know why that by-election was not conducted, but I don't think there was any election in Rivers. But we had Edo, we had Anambra, we had a couple of other places.
Oh, absolutely, Jeffrey. And looking at those numbers for you, you'll see well, there are 2 things you can deduce from these numbers. It's either a prediction of what we would have in the coming elections, or something that will make the other parties work harder to ensure that this result is not repeated in the coming elections. I'm talking about the Anambra governorship election and the general election and other states elections that will have Osun and the rest. And as Jeffrey said, indeed, the APC took the day, most of it. And what a lot of people were looking to see was how ADC, the coalition, will fare in this election. But we can tell you that so far the ADC did not win any seat, either for the House of Reps or a senatorial seat ADC won none. And you'll find out that most of the cases, aside the usual APC, PDP, ABGA, and NNPP winning in Kano State, I should say that's where NNPP won. ADC was third or fourth in most of these elections. In Chikun Kajuru Federal Constituency in Kaduna State, for example, ADC was third. In Basawa constituency, also in Kaduna State, ADC was fourth with 146 votes. In Zaria Kewaya constituency, the ADC did not make top three. In Oyo State as well, for Ibadan North Federal Constituency, ADC was fourth. Of course, the PDP, which is a ruling party in the state, came first. So generally speaking, Jeffrey, the coalition did not do well for this election. But a lot of them are saying it's too early. It's too early. We're still trying to get our acts together. But some will say, well, seeing the fourth and even the third position they're coming up with is a major pointer to what the future might hold.
I'm actually impressed with them even being on the ballot. What do you call it now?
The top three or top four.
Yes, I'm impressed. Because except you don't understand politics, it's too early in the day to expect. Their acts are not even put together. They don't have a governor. They don't have a member of the House of Assembly. Okay, they have one. ADC has one. Just one. Leke Abejide, I remember him now, from Kogi State. I think he's from the Okun area of Kogi State. So I'm actually impressed that they even were able to, in fact, for instance, I was looking at the results in, that should be Anambra. They came third in the, let's add that, distant third in the Anambra South senatorial election. And in Onitsha North constituency, they came second in the state constituency. So given the fact that they are still battling issues around court issues, they just came together, they don't have a governor, they don't have members, they don't have the what constitutes what you will call political formidability behind, besides big names and all of that. I'm even impressed they are coming third, and Labour is not even here. I don't think I saw anything Labour in that direction. So it's too early in the day to call. I think where I will begin to see, for me, I'll begin to measure their weight is in the off-cycle election next year, not even the November election. Next year, they would have had at least a year to show whether they are ready for 2027 or not, at least minimally in that sense. So, well, they should not give up. Some of us are rooting for anything that is in the shape or form of opposition. I like balance in democracy.
So give us a robust democracy, really.
Yes. So this, whoever is of the idea or believes that there should not be a formidable, because I'm wondering why all of the opposition seem to be in disarray. It's not good for democracy. PDP still struggling. They have a lot of amorphous members there. Those who are in their party but supporting either ADC and what do you call it now? APC.
Yeah.
There are people in Labour Party. They are divided into the Nenadi Usman element and then the Abure element. They have two national publicity secretary, all sorts of
and they also have
contraption.
The coalition interplay in the Labour Party as well.
Even NNPP, there's supposed to be a bit of stability. There's also a problem there. So it looks like amongst the parties, the only party that seems to be at least surface level stable is the APC. Although they have their own problems there, they are managing it a lot better than the other parties. So I have always said that if the PDP, Labour, and any other parties are accusing the APC of being responsible for the instability, then play the game like them. Well, if you know Bola Tinubu's kind of politics, you should be able to know by now that that's how he plays his game. So don't be acting surprised. I hate when you act surprised in politics. All right. So these are the results, Kaide.
There you go. That's for Ogun State. You see the top two, of course, APC winning. That's the ruling party in the state. Anambra, Apuga winning. Of course, that's the ruling party as well. ADC came third, though. Jeffrey.
Yeah.
You'd expect Labour Party to come third in Anambra State. But
I think
ADC
the Labour Party, Peter Obi, who is the former presidential candidate of that party, I think he supported the ADC in this election.
So you understand why Julius Abure is not happy, because he put out a statement to that effect. This is Kaduna. Yet again, you'd expect ADC to maybe come second, but you can't take away the APC ruling party and the PDP, which has been a strong party. You saw the former governor Nasir El-Rufai campaigning last week, pulled a lot of crowds, so perhaps that's why you see that 3,000 for Chikun and and 146 for Basawa constituency.
I heard that, so I stand to be corrected, but this was a bit of an offset. I heard that was a PDP-dominated area, and that upset came. But we have forgotten one party, SDP.
Yeah,
SDP came
in Zaria.
In Zaria, Kewaya. And then this is Niger. Okay.
I mean, it's usually APC, PDP there.
So let's keep going. So that Nigerians will get to see the results. You know, Nigerians, we need to be interested in all elections because these are guys that will be signing budgets and facing the executive.
Now, Adamawa is interesting.
This is a very tricky election. This election, if our producers can hold this one, they won by how many votes?
Adamawa, you expect that at least the former vice president, again, with the coalition talk. So I think maybe that's what also confused maybe the voters for Adamawa. It's hard to tell, but you'll expect that the ADC, because I mean in Kaduna the ADC had a showing because former Governor Nasir El-Rufai did the campaigning. In Adamawa you expect that because former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is from there.
There's an incumbent.
Yeah, so you expect that at least PDP and ADC should do great, but the APC took a slim margin though, Jeff.
Very, very, very tight margin.
But ADC just 42.
Yeah, I know this is going to end up in court. There's an incumbent governor of the PDP.
Yeah.
If former vice president and presidential candidate of the PDP, and this was this one was election stalled.
Yeah, and inconclusive.
Inconclusive. Okay, interesting.
So there you go. But something played out in Anambra State, Jeffrey. Some, would I call it face-off? Maybe needless face-off between the deputy governor of Anambra State and the governorship candidate in the state. As I said, these are not things you would expect to see from particularly people at that level. But again, it's what you see. So we had the deputy governor of Anambra State, Dr. Ebezim, in a heated exchange in Ekukwoma with the APC governorship candidate during the by-election, which held in Anambra State over the weekend as well. There was an altercation on the road and they exchanged words. It didn't leave a good sign, really, particularly for the supporters, because if you see the leaders arguing in such manner, throwing such words, what do you expect the supporters to do? So this was a recording that was done over the weekend.
We're going to hear in a moment the exchange between the deputy governor of Anambra State and the APC governorship candidate in the elections coming up in November. So it was a territorial warfare, if you will. So that's Nicholas Okachiku and the deputy governor, Deputy Governor Ebezim. Let's take a listen to the exchange.
Who's buying the party? What do you mean by that? Are we not talking to smart? That's not the Are you a candidate? Are you a candidate? Nobody's moving. I'll be on your cash here. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. But if I grind me up to you, grind me up. Did you say we cannot be here? You cannot be here. We have no business to be here. A deputy governor. Not an election. So now, you are deputy governor. You cannot go. You're not police. You think? You're not police. Are you police? Why are you going to our community? So you have to go to every community am I pulling in? I can be my community, I'm pulling in. Hi, Jesus Christ. Let's tell you.
Oh dear, Kade. Okay, let me explain what is going on here for context. So the election took place in that area in Anambra South Senatorial Zone. So the gentleman with the white is deputy governor of Anambra State, and then the other gentleman is the governorship candidate in the elections that are coming up in November. So we understand that is the zone. That's the APC governorship candidate I should contextualize. That is his zone. The APC, that is Nicholas Ukachukwu. That's his zone, but that's not necessarily, I think, his community. Now, if you know the rules of election, you're not supposed to go beyond your polling unit. So the allegation is to the effect that Nicholas Ukachukwu was going around with security and all of that, you know, whatever he was doing with them. Now, there was a distress call. Now, that distress call necessitated the deputy governor, who is not from that zone in the first place. So his own is that he's not even from that zone. He now made his way to the area to maybe try to resolve whatever it is. And then this face-off happened. So you can see Nicholas Ukachukwu telling the deputy governor, you are not going anywhere. I think he even said, I'll burn your car or something. Yeah. And then the deputy governor said, you're talking to a deputy governor, blah, 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 and they were heated exchange. So, Kaide, both men were wrong in my assessment. First, in an election where your parties are participating, you are not supposed to leave your polling units, whether you're a governor or you're a deputy governor. If you're not a journalist, you're not a security agency, you're not INEC. If you like, let fire be burning and everybody be exploding. That day, because you are a participant in that election, stay in your polling unit. That's what the law says. So whether it's Ukachukwu Nicholas that was busy as elect, carrying security, moving from area to area, it was flat wrong. The deputy governor who showed up because of a distress call, he's not the security agency. He's a participant in that election as a political party. It could be misconstrued to the effect that he's coming to also subvert the system to his own favor or the favor of his political party. So both men here were wrong. So perhaps that's why you saw that standoff. But it's very not, it's not right for that threat to have come forth, that you burned the man's car and all of that. No, that is irresponsible. So we need to do better. These leaders have to definitely do better. It's not good to see at all. So while we hope to see some sort of redress, retraction, sort of apologies, we should get to that point where these leaders come and say, a press release or something.
Yeah, we apologize for that outburst. I mean, we'll do better next time because younger people are watching, right? And you need to set the right examples. Let's also tell you about this very distressing story. Sadly, also from Anambra State. And this played out weeks ago. It is a case of a young lady that was harassed. She was harassed, and it just leaves a very bad taste in the mouth by a local security outfit in Anambra State. And she was stripped naked, I must say, by men of that security outfit. What are the allegations? Well, it's really all over the place when you listen to some of the things that they claimed was responsible for this sort of raid, harassment, and, I mean, outright wicked acts, I must say, on the lady. Say there were allegations of homosexuality or what have you.
Cybercrime.
Cybercrime and all of that. And they say this is why they kicked down the door of these, one of them actually.
Yeah, core members.
Yeah, core members kicked down their door and then went on to harass the lady. Jeffrey, this is terrible.
Whoever this security agent, because let's be clear, these are not Nigerian police force. Yeah. The Nigerian police force has condemned this. They call it barbaric and bad. Whichever security agency is this in the locals, you can see, we can't show you everything, but this girl was literally, if you think you saw the incidents on Ibome, this is worse than that at the end of the day. So this one is worse than that. Literally, they were malhandling this girl, beating her and dragging her dress, pulled off even when she was bare, trying to protect herself. They literally, it's not something that is good for TV or for anywhere. They literally embarrassed this. But the police have said they're on top of the issue. I think what will bring justice to this madness is the arrest of those gentlemen. The question we also asked was the fact that why are they carrying that level of sophisticated guns when they are not Nigerian police? We understand the police has retrieved those guns from them. We're following up on the details. Perhaps we're going to get the PRO of the state or someone, one of our person to come and speak to it on the program within the week. But I don't know when we got to a point, whether the person is evading arrest, especially vulnerable persons like women, and then an exchange happened. This looks like, you know, the other one, they were arguing, okay, as they were dragging her, her clothes went off. This is very deliberate, like they wanted to strip her. What kind of madness is this? Who raised these people as I don't understand. Who raised them? Who trained them? Let's even talk about home training. That's flew out of the window. You're arresting a woman, and then whatever she's wearing is going bare. If you were raised properly, you will know what to do. Then let's even talk about the professionalism. This guy, you know what worried me about this video when I saw it? We're busy shouting state police. Are these the people that are going to do state police? Is this what we're going to be dealing with?
You know, the name of the outfit is called Operation Udogachi. And that's, I hope I got that right, the Anambra State Governor, you know, introduced as some sort of security, local security outfit to basically solve some of the local security issues.
Are they like vigilante?
Sort of. So you'll see the vehicle they parked outside. It has the Operation Udogachi just right on it. There's a vehicle outside. And there have been complaints, I must say. And there have been wins also from this security outfit. But this...
See the way they're beating the girl.
This kind of activity, Jeffrey, I mean, even armed robbers may not act like this.
Okay, let's even say they are committing homosexuality. Let's even accept without conceding there's homosexuality. Let's even accept without conceding that it's cyber crime. Let's even accept. Does that necessitate this kind of beating? You know, whether it's a vigilante or a state, I don't know what this is, but the police has identified that they are local security outfits, and the police is on top of it, but this is not the Nigerian police. This cannot be the Nigerian police. Look at them, they are not even wearing uniform. That's another thing, they're not even wearing, so you show up in my house, and
the ladies thought they were armed robbers.
Yes, no, it is easy to mistake this set of people for armed robbers. So these men should be arrested. They have terrible home training. They are not trained for anything, not to handle a gun, nothing. We are on it. We're going to look through and report to you. We're going to get police force, but we can tell you that the Nigerian police force, both at the headquarters and the local level, at this command level, has condemned this, and they're on top of it. I understand, I think the guys have been arrested or something.
They have to be prosecuted?
Yes, they have to be prosecuted.
We can't cover things like this.
No, you can't.
Not at all.
All right.
There you have it. So while we wait to see how this issue is treated and ensure that the lady and our colleagues are safe as well, they are core members, we must say. Let's show you what more we have for you on the program this morning. The court judgment in Canada last month, I must say, is giving the PDP and the APC a major headache. A federal court made a pronouncement about an asylum request of a Nigerian man, and somehow what was loudest in that judgment is a certain statements about subversion, terrorism, and you had the names of our ruling party, APC, but more prominently, the opposition party, PDP, in that case. Statements have been flying around the ministry, the APC, the government, to the Canadian court saying you have to retract that statement. But what exactly does that judgment say? We'll break it down for you on the program this morning.
Absolutely, and from there we get to the real conversation about the by-elections. There's going to be a lot of conversation about the by-election. The politicians will join us, as well as the civil society organization who watch this space to see how these things play out. They'll be able to assess for us on all sides as to what they see that has played out in this election, the infractions, the excellence, the failures, and the future, as well as the legislative arm of government in holding the powerful executive to account, which is their responsibility.
Oh, yes. And let's touch on the humanitarian situation in some parts of the country that have been hit. Mokwa comes to mind. Donations have been made. How are the people faring, particularly in the IDP camps? There's also Benue and other states that have been hit by either natural disasters or insecurity. We touch base with them and find out how they're faring this morning.
Okay, that's the package we have for you today on the program, and we're going to be looking at all of this. But let's bring you up to speed with some of the things I'll be looking at today. as far as the headlines of the dailies are concerned. Don't forget, we'll start with the issue of the Canadian court, talk about the by-election and then the humanitarian crisis, and give you again some of the results of that election, put in the right context in the right places. But let's bring you our dailies in just a moment. Welcome back. So let's talk about the issue of the issues are all over my head, Card. I forgot this is daily.
Let's talk about the issue of the Abuja Inquirer.
I think maybe Abuja Inquirer is where we start from. Let's go there. Okay. Abuja Inquirer says, kudos knocks over outcomes of by-elections. Tinubu APC hails results. Opposition cry foul as ADC with no show. So I think we've spoken extensively about this in our opening comments as we're tracking what was playing out in the polity. If you are a watcher of the space and you've seen what played out, you've seen that out of the 16 seats, both Senate, Reps, and Houses of Assembly, APC took about 12. That is 75% of the entire result. Impressive number. Now, but there have been arguments as to how that happened. Was there a subversion of the process? Or did they use violence? Was there a rigging? You know, somebody said in Nigerian elections, sadly, is the battle of the better rigger. But APC has done well in this election in terms of the outcome of that election. Opposition is actually crying foul. Some of them are already heading to court. We have pointed out the fact that given the instability of the opposition and the new entrant who hasn't gotten his acts together, this result was not quite difficult to predict, at least for now. We should commend the ADC, if I will, to the effect that they even made a showing ahead of even the Labour Party in some of these elections, because they just came. So it's quite early in the day. So that's why the Abuja Inquirer is leading with kudos and knocks as far as this election is concerned. When we come to other part, we're also going to look at the conduct of INEC itself, because there were allegations of certain individuals taking collation to their personal residences and all of that. Security agencies' conduct also has to be put on the searchlight. See the fallout between the APC governorship candidate and the deputy governor of Anambra State. Both of them flat wrong. They had no business being where they were. And but at the end of the day, kudos and knocks. APC won the day, and let's see how it plays out in court, because now everybody's going to.
That's where we're headed next. But take a look at Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard gives you an explainer of what exactly played out, or how things played out as well for that by-election. And you see how APC swept by-elections, wins 12 seats, ABGA 2, PDP 1, NNPP 1. But right next to that story is a very concerning one that says 40 missing, 10 rescued in Sokoto boat mishap. So the boat mishaps, almost like this is a season yet again, and these numbers are just really sad. And when you look at them, in fact, some others claim that more than 40 people are missing in that boat mishap, still trying to recover from the Taraba boat mishap. There's a Niger boat mishap, and now Sokoto boat mishap. Jeffrey.
So it's quite an unfortunate incident to keep seeing this. You know, the first question that comes to mind is the extent of safety measure that has been put in place to avoid incidences like this. So were they wearing life jackets? What really happened until those are done? But that's the first line of action. I think we should insist and even make it a criminal offense. If you're not wearing life jacket, don't enter a boat. You know, some of us are from riverine areas, so you get used to the water body. You're no longer afraid because you can swim and all of that. But nature can have alternative plans, and on that day you may not be prepared for it. And no matter how skillful you are, your skill will be limited to be able to save you. So I think these are avoidable deaths, some of them. If they only wear life jacket, perhaps before things would have gone south, maybe help would have been on his way here. But let's get to this Nigerian newspaper. 4 trillion naira bailout. CSOs demand transparency. SMEs, household lament poor services by discos amid high tariff. You see, this matter of electricity is an ongoing conversation that will never end. But I think the focus of this Nigeria is to the fact that some of the bailouts that were given to this sector, there were funds released, they were, they're also paying subsidy. I think everybody who is not on Band A is enjoying some form of subsidy or the other.
Fair.
That's part of it. But some people are enjoying good electricity. Like in my area, for instance, I hardly turn on my generator, but the tariff, or what do you call it now? Is quite high.
Yeah.
You pay through your nose for that service. It's quite expensive to be on Band A. So there are places that there's good power, but there are places that all of this good power we're talking about is like a dream for them. And even in that situation, there's the issue of estimated billing. There's the issue of disruptive power, insufficient power, yet, no explanation, no apologies in that sense. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So I think it's totally in line and totally in order, I should say, that the CSOs are demanding accountability and transparency in this sector. If we don't fix power, Kayode, no matter the plan Bola Tinubu, our president, has, and whoever succeeds him have, Nigeria will not work without power infrastructure. We need to get this because that is like, if you look at the pillars of productivity, in terms of infrastructure, power comes first. Then human capital, then you can talk about technology and every other thing you list. Until this is sorted, we have not started yet. And this has to be done right. So if monies were expended or monies were given as bailout, let's begin to see what the monies were used for, the people that we should hold accountable, licenses that we should suspend. Now it has been decentralized so that the states will have a fair share of the distribution and even generation, if they can, at the subnational level.
Big one, power, definitely. But take a look at New Telegraph. New Telegraph leads with revenue sharing. It's always a thorny issue between the federal government, the local government, and of course the state governments. You see, Ramfac revisits new revenue formula 2 years after proposal to federal government. This has been in the works for some time now. There's been different proposals, and naturally there's been opposition and support to the different proposals that have come forth. But yet again, Ramfac is pushing it up and even saying that, every 5 years, let's review this formula and figure out how to share the national cake amongst the federal, state, and local governments. But what will this look like? That's the big question now. I hope this is not going to be another thorny issue that will just distract us yet again. I think the big point is, first, let us make sure we maximize all of our resources as a nation. Secondly, let's ensure that all the governments, people in charge of government, they use these resources wisely, prudently, okay? Stop spending like you're the richest nation in the world, okay? Let's pay attention to what really matters. Use taxpayers' money well. And honestly, this conversation will not be as thorny as they are right now. But that's New Telegraph for you this morning. The big story on Ramfac, of course, the by-elections is there. ADC alleging voter intimidation and vote buy-in. So that's yet another issue that we'll be taking a look at in the coming minutes, actually, naturally. So there you have it, the New Telegraph for you this morning.
Just before we run away from the dailies, Guardian, let's just read it for you. Guardian is leading with over 10 banks. Insurers risk forced merger in the race for new capital. There has been this capitalization race ahead for 2026. The CBN has given everybody 2 years. That was one of the first marching orders by Olayemi Cardoso, the CBN governor, saying, look, we need to, be big if we want to really do big things as the financial sector. So you can get to the page 6 of that. I like what they do on the Guardian. So they give you a bit of the sizes so far, the ones that have exceeded the capitalization, the big internationals, the nationals, the sub-regional, and the state level, as well as insurance companies that are involved in all of this. And the banks are not meeting up. They'll be forced, because if you're not big, go home or you merge. It's as simple as that. And I totally agree. You have to be big to do. So, for instance, I want to do a 10 trillion naira project as a Nigerian government. Which bank is going to give us that kind of money? We have to gather all the banks, and the money will still not be enough. No, we're not big yet. We have to be as big as possible.
So what are we going to see? Are we going to see mergers between banks and insurance companies? Or
no, banks or banks. Yeah, it's going to be just banks.
You think about it. It might be a smart move, really.
You never know.
I'm in the banking sector, and I see that you're in the insurance sector. Can we find a way around it and find...
That would be nice.
This is me just thinking out of the box, but this will be very interesting, because the two sectors are racing against time right now.
We'll continue to give you an update as far as this is concerned. Also, watch our Business Morning program. They are the experts in this area to break it down for you. But hey, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to the politicians as far as this issue of APC, PDP, and this terror tag, as well as the outcome of the by-election. We'll be talking to them in just a moment. Stay with us.
So it was a big weekend in Nigeria across the states of the Federation, over a dozen states where elections held either for senatorial or House of Representative seats. We call them by-elections, and the results are in. Majority of the results, aside the one that was inconclusive and the one that was postponed, but majority of the results are out. The APC took the day, winning most of the seats, followed by, of course, the PDP, and the NNPP and ABGA sharing the remaining spoils. NNPP, of course, took Kano and APC as well, while APGA, of course, took Anambra State. We're joined on the program this morning by two politicians to get a sense of how they're taking this election in, the outcome of this election, because a lot of people see it as a foretaste as to what we'll have for the state by-elections, the off-cycle elections, and the general elections in 2027. We're joined by YPP National Chairman, Mr. Bishop Makari, joins us virtually on the program this morning, as well as PDP former legal advisor, Mr. Mark Jacob. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Let me begin.
Good morning, Cody.
Good morning. Let me begin with Mr. Makari.
Jeffrey.
Right. Good morning. Let me begin with you, Mr. Bishop Makari. Your party, the YPP, came third for that Anambra South senatorial district. I think for a lot of people, they were focusing on APC, PDP, and Labour Party, and they forgot that YPP is also a major party to beat in Anambra State, particularly after the sad events that happened to a former member of your party, and of course this caused the by-election to hold. But speak to us about the conduct of that election for you in Anambra State. How would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, you yourself have given credence to, you say a lot of people are expecting APC, these so-called big parties. And your analysis, I saw you placing ADC already third, until I have to, let me correct that impression. ADC didn't come any third, so it was YPP that came third, even though that's not the position that we aspire to be. But the irony about the whole thing is that it's quite unfortunate that the electorate themselves have compromised their own future to people I will call transactional, gladiators in the political environment. You can see, I'm sure you have your other colleagues who are in the field, or even the feelers from all angles, how vote buying has become the norm in our electoral processes. And I think that is a danger that is looming. Because when this kind of thing continues, what you find is that instead of getting the transformational leadership that we require in all aspects of our political structure or leadership, you continue to have transactional leadership. And that's why when people go to maybe the National Assembly, it's not an institution that we should take so lightly and just send anyhow people to go there in terms of making laws and then also oversight functions, in fact, checkmating the excesses of the executives. So it's really quite unfortunate. I've been in Anambra for some few, let me say 1 week plus now, trying to see how we can put together our team. And then, of course, we had a very robust team. Don't also forget that the Anambra South is the stronghold of YPP in the entire country. That's the place YPP had produced senator, we have produced House of Assembly, we have 2 House of Rep members, even though we know that some of them maybe also have joined the League of the Transactional Leaders, whom some of them have, according to them, they've become to the party. Some are still even in the YPP playing anti-party. But we will deal with all those issues, very decisively very soon. Those who claim to be in YPP, and their one leg is in YPP, the other is in ABGA, who rather show them the way to live. And the question about asking me, the scale of whether 1 to 10 or whatever, there's nothing to even evaluate, frankly speaking. My heart beats because when I see the people crying for the desired change in this country, and I'm talking about the electorate now, and you continue to see them, affirming the recklessness of these transactional politicians who do not have anything to, no any value to add. They only prepare for elections day, and then they bring money to polling units or whatever to buy votes. I don't really understand. This is so very, it's a cancer that I think is eating deep into the fabrics of our political lexicon. I think we need to really find a solution to this problem. Otherwise, I'm sorry. I don't know where our people really want to be. Because not only, it didn't happen only in Anambra, it happened across port. We've seen videos flying everywhere where people are caught, even including some INEC officials that are indulged in this kind of, crime. So, it puts the question that if the politicians are actually misbehaving, should the electorate also join that, their rascality and then, make the whole process look just, very, very incredible.
All right, Mr. Makri, let's take it down to Mr. Mark Jacob, who is the former National Legal Advisor to the People's Democratic Party. Mr. Jacob, let's see how you're assessing this. Well, the APC swept the polls, literally. I think the PDP won only in Ibadan, to the best of my knowledge. Even in Adamawa, where it is also the stronghold, should be the stronghold of the PDP because you have an incumbent who is a PDP governor. Also, we have a former vice president and a former presidential candidate who is a very towering figure in the politics. But in that particular election, the APC beat them in the game, at least from the result that was announced as we see. What do you make of what had played out?
Well, let me start by saying that we are back to the old days of the stronger person will win election anywhere. Stronger in terms of being in government or being in control of agencies of government. Kaduna, where I come from, has the record of the PDP candidate for Chikun and Kajuru constituency being abducted by officials of government and 25 other people when they were preparing and strategizing on how to participate in the elections on Saturday. Government officials, agencies of security drove into the place where the candidate and her agents were meeting preparing to deploy to the polling units and took them captive. And we saw a situation where the candidate and her supporters, her key supporters who are strategizing, the strategy team, were taken away from the election or from participation until later in the day. And elections were being conducted without the participation of the candidates because agencies of government took them captive. And people are celebrating. We saw situations where PDP candidates in other places were targeted for arrest just before the election. And then you are celebrating. Nigeria is actually galloping backwards. The gains we had from 2003, 2007, up to 2011, the gains that INEC and Nigeria made in the electoral process have all been whittled down. We've now gone back to the days when might is right. If you have power, you have political power, you have control of agencies of government, you are bound to win election. And that is not positive for the country. We should be ashamed. Nobody should be celebrating when we win election by exhibiting power at the polls. It is not correct, and nobody should condone it. So, yes, they can declare themselves winners. The APC cleared all the votes or the seats that were for take on Saturday, but nobody is proud or should be proud of the conduct. And like they say, they will tell you to go to court. It's the common refrain now from the ruling government. After every election, they tell you to go to court, which is a terrible testimony or embarrassment to those of us in the legal profession, indicating that the courts are now maybe a segment of the ruling party. Nobody should be expecting anything. If you are unhappy, go to court. That is what the ruling party will tell you after winning the election by all means. And that is not a good testimony for the country. So generally, people have won in courts, people have wrestled power, and they are going to the National Assembly or houses of assembly with that type of mandate. And that is why nobody should be expecting that they will be working for them. They will be working for the system that recruited and imposed them on the people. Nobody should be expecting a proper management of the legislative houses. The legislative houses that are supposed to checkmate the executive are now just an extension of the executive, because the executive conduct the elections and insist on winning every seat that is up for grabs. And we are watching, but the country is really moving backwards. We are not exceeding as far as political discipline and culture is expected.
Right.
Democracy is not practicing is not democracy at all.
Well, Mr. Mark Jacob, you know, it's interesting what also came up just before the election, just around the by-election. And I'd like you to speak to it as well. But just to say that we also have joining us now Mr. Victor Giwa, legal practitioner and national coordinator, advocates for people, rights, and justice. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. You're welcome to the program, Mr. Giwa. And this takes us to the next leg of the conversation, which is, related, I must say, and that's the judgment that came from the Canadian court, the federal court in Canada, that has caused a lot of debate. This judgment by that court looked at a previous decision by the Immigration Appeal Division, which is like a tribunal that looks at issues around asylum requests and arrest. And this was a case of a Nigerian, Douglas Eyareva, who sought asylum in Canada, and that case started in 2017. Eventually, the court ruled. But what got a lot of people talking on page 4 of that judgment is a previous decision that was made by the IAD which says it concluded that the PDP engaged in political violence and subversion, including ballot stuffing, ballot box snatching, voter intimidation, violence, and murder of opposition supporters and candidates in the 2003 state elections and 2004 local elections. And just before I go to Mr. Giwa, I want Mr. Mark Jacob to quickly speak to this, because you're a former legal advisor of the PDP. By the way, the APC was also mentioned, even though they didn't quite go into the case, because they said the PDP zone was enough to make a decision. I wonder what you make of this, Mr. Mark Jacob. Is this the past coming back to haunt the PDP?
My first observation on this is that this ruling by the Canadian court exposes Nigeria again and its people as a desperate set of people who have no respect for their country. You want to become a refugee, or you want to run away from Nigeria, and the only way you want to justify your running away is to say that a political party is practicing terrorism, or what do they call it, and that is your ground for seeking residence in another country. How Nigerians demarcate their country freely and happily is something that we must frown against, because you are free to just apply and say, look, I want to leave my country, I want to come and stay in Canada. But such reasons are completely outrageous. And whether we like it or not, everything we do boils down to all of us as a country and as a people. Now, on the issue or the judgment itself, there is no way that court could have exercised jurisdiction to make such pronouncements without the participation of the PDP. The PDP was not a party to that case. And parties, you cannot make conclusions and make outlandish statements or conclusions on people or parties that were not before you. It's a fundamental issue. It's a fundamental principle of law. The court in Canada, to have made a valid judgment, ought to hear the parties before passing such judgment. And I'm sure the PDP National Legal Advisor will respond to that in due course. But I know that such a declaration is not correct without hearing the PDP and any other party, including the APC. There's no way a court of competent jurisdiction would proceed to make such conclusions without hearing the parties. Secondly or thirdly, Nigerians, again, are responsible for whatever befalls us as a people. We cannot demarcate our country continuously and expect that we'll be respected in the Committee of Nations. There is no way somebody will say he wants to leave the country, and the best way to do it is to say that his country is bad and that he's been victimized. Meanwhile, he was leaving the PDP and joining another political party. He left the PDP and joined the APC. Not that he left the PDP and stopped being a politician. No, he left the PDP and joined the APC. The little I've read from that judgment is that he was still a politician. He was still a member of another political party that was also receiving the same condemnation by the same court. So he is also caught in the middle of it, that he was not as clean as he wanted to be or portray himself. So the court, like I said, ought to have restrained itself from going into outlandish, unfounded, and unverifiable conclusions. That is my assessment of the entire judgment.
All right, let's get to before we go to Mr. Giwa, let's who is from the CSO. Mr. Giwa, we'll come to you in just a moment. Let's talk to the politicians for just a moment. Mr. Makri, whatever the intent and purpose, whatever had played out in the Canadian courts, what is the biggest lesson here is the narration of our country on international scene as to what is perceived to be how we conduct elections. And, you know, I don't like us washing our dirty linens in public, but we know how things play out here. Now it has gotten to those points where we are beginning to see some of this tag. Of course, there was no pronouncement of whether PDP or APC is a terror organization. In fact, if you look at the judgment, by the honorable judge. He says he refrained from that entirely. So no, APC was not called a terrorist organization. PDP that was heavy on that judgment was not called a terrorist organization. It's the activities in terms of ballot snatching as alleged subversion and all of that. But what does this make, and what lessons can we learn from here? Because this is now we going international for yet another wrong reason.
Yeah, well, I have a different opinion on this matter. The truth of the matter is that
if you can help us unmute your device, we can barely hear what you're saying.
Like I said,
Mr. Makri, can you hear us? We can't hear you clearly. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Okay, let's see if we can manage that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, maybe but can you hear me now?
Fantastic. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Like I said, like as I was saying, I've been sure. My own opinion is different from maybe how the lawyers will think. I'm not a lawyer. The truth of the matter is that whether the Canadian court has jurisdiction to look into the matter or not is inconsequential to me. Whether some persons have gone to demarcate the country, yes, that I have a concern about that. But let's talk about the crux of the matter, whether this PDP and the APC that have been mentioned, why didn't they mention other political parties? There are some other parties that have been around the political, around our political establishment over the years. But the truth is that these are the two parties that have been, ruling the country. And the Canadian court, maybe through their own, because don't forget that we have embassies that are here in Nigeria, and what do they do here? They study all that we do here, and they give reports back to their country and what have you. So a man who is seeking asylum in another country, why is he even running from his country? And he went there on his own, confessed that he belongs to social political parties and this and that. And they went into the crux of the matter and said, oh, if you are a member of this party, and from our own information or what we know about these two parties you have mentioned, they have been subverting the will of the people through the ballot and all other political, brigandage that they have, installed on Nigerian people. Okay, I think Nigerians, we should learn how to deal with the issue, the crux of the matter, and find a solution to the problem, rather than casting aspersions on the things that, these people are actually trying to wake us up. They are trying to tell us that even the citizens of this country need to wake up. A situation where over the years, some group of persons will have what I would call a state capture by some, political power mongers who don't want to give way for anything good. For all, like you just rightly say, power grab has always been what they are thirsty of. They're not talking about good governance for the people. And you know what, for me, I would say this is just nemesis that is actually catching up with these two big parties that have killed this country over the years. And like one of my brother here, the former legal advisor, have said, Nigerian is actually not making progress. We are rather, retrogressing. And it's not good for our people. Let's learn how to deal with issues as they come. Once these issues are what is before us, let's provide solution to the problem rather than casting aspersion. We can't tell the Canadian, they were on their own. And this man, traveled there to go and meet them. Why? What is he seeking asylum for in Canada, for God's sake? If this country was working, I don't want to go to any other country. I tell you, it's not that I'm not a billionaire. But I'm contented. I'm in Nigeria. We will all be here to struggle. Fight this injustice, social injustice that has been meted on our people, and see how we can rescue this country from the hands of these vampires, who have over the years kept this country underdeveloped.
There are lots of lessons to learn here, as you have said. Indeed, lots of lessons to pick, particularly for those parties. And don't forget that a lot of people who were in the PDP then are in the APC now, crisscrossing. But let's touch base with Mr. Victor Giwa, who's a legal practitioner, to provide some legal insight into this, the implication and all of that. Mr. Victor Giwa, thank you so much. So, I mean, this case is before all of us. Looking at it, the judgment was given in June. It was trying to seek redress based on the decision of an immigration appeal division that was looking at his asylum application in that sense. But in terms of legal implications, what does this mean? And is there a redress that can be sought on the part of Nigeria beyond just asking the courts to withdraw or the appeal division to withdraw such tag?
Okay, thank you very much. Firstly, it is a private or personal application made by Mr. Douglas seeking a refugee status in Canada. And of course, one of the facts was that, you know, in your application for refugee status, you have to come with information and facts that would allow them to accede to your request. Now, the truth of the matter is that I did not think that whether or not the PDP, Mr. Douglas said that he was a member of PDP from 1999 to 2007, and that in 2007 he decamped to APC, and between 2007 and 2017 he was a member of the APC. Now, we need to get it clear. The Canadian Federal Court in June made the pronouncement that the PDP is like a terrorist organization, not that they have been declared as a terrorist organization. We need to put it in perspective. Now, in the Canadian law, under the Criminal Code of Canada, the Canadian Criminal Code, Section 83, subsection 01 of the Canadian Criminal Code, define a terrorist, an act of terrorism to be any political, religious, ideological act that was done with the intention of causing death, serious bodily harm, intimidation, risk to any life. They define such act of intimidation, any act that will lead to death or serious body harm, or that can put somebody in threat of death, as a terrorist act under the Canadian Criminal Code. So it is based on that. They saw the activities of PDP as at the time the young man claimed to be a member of PDP, that PDP was involved in subversion of the democratic structure, intimidation, killing of political opponents, candidates, smashing of ballot papers. So in all this, looking at the Criminal Code of Canada, those actions amount to terrorism, terrorist activities. So it is based on the Criminal Code of the Canadian Criminal Code that they made that pronouncement, because they have to judge him by the law in Canada. So, and looking at the activities of PDP within that period, of course, you and I do not need to debate about the various information. You and I, we are knowledgeable of the fact that even in a state, you saw a case where a woman in Kogi State ran into a house and this woman was burned down. During election, we have in history that in the 2007-2011 election, over 100 lives were lost just for electoral violence. So the Canadian Criminal Code sees any act by a member of an organization in pursuit of the object of that organization that will lead to death or serious bodily harm as an act of terrorism. So what is the implication? The PDP and the APC cannot appeal because they were not a party to that suit. It was just a fact that was brought to their knowledge. And the fact that the Canadian government has their own perception of what the activities of our organizations, our political parties, what they are doing in Nigeria. So you don't blame the young man, you blame the political party. And if you see in one of their, in the judgment, they said that the leadership of PDP was aware of those actions. They did not do anything to stop it or condemn it or to discipline their members. So this is talk about corporate responsibility and liability. So we don't need to blame the Canadian government or the Canadian federal court. What it tells us is that as members of political party, Nigerians should be aware that their activities, the things they do in pursuit of political power, that it is in the globe, we're in a global village that is in the knowledge of everybody, that people are watching, people are seeing us, and that is what this is one of the implications of some of these activities of our politicians.
Mr. Agiwa, well said. Let's go to Mr. Mark Jacob, who is also a legal practitioner. Mr. Jacob, so help us, please, just one minute each. I'll throw questions to both you and Mr. Mark. It's similar questions. Look at what played out in fact, when I saw the judgment and the arguments as to the tag and the federal government response and the APC's response, I don't know whether the PDP has responded, which was heavily mentioned, and I saw what played out in Anambra. I was like, oh no, these are the things we are talking about, where the APC governorship candidate in the coming election left his polling unit, and I understand, as alleged, was moving around with security to do whatever it was that was done, and distress call was made. And rather than the police or whoever shown up, it was the deputy governor, also in error. Both of them, just, I don't know how to describe it, just breaking the law, both the deputy governor and the APC governorship candidate, literally breaking the law, because the law is very simple. Your party is a participant in the election. You don't have any movement outside your polling unit. Outside there is only journalists, essential service workers like the police and INEC officials. So what were both of them showing off, power and all of that? So in your concluding, so what should we learn from this? 1 minute, please, both of you gentlemen. Mr. Mark?
Yeah, for me, it goes back to a very salient recommendation that has reoccurred over and over as far as elections in Nigeria are concerned. We must stop these manual elections. The day we do electronic voting, there will be no need for all this show of power and brigandage. People will sit in the comfort of their homes or offices and cast their vote. But where you have physical elections and then collation particularly, that is where all elections in Nigeria are messed up. People exercise territorial fiefdoms. People cut the electoral process into this is my territory. Don't come here. And because you are the strong man there, you manipulate the process as much as you want and return 2 million votes in a situation, in a constituency that has not up to 800 registered voters. We have seen this in many election petitions where people manipulate the process because they are in charge of the environment. They take charge, they take INEC officials hostage, they take the security officials hostage, they take every other political party hostage and write what they want. That is all that showed up in that election in Anambra, where this man wearing a singlet was threatening the deputy governor that I will even burn your car here. That is brigandage, that is territorial control, that this is my area, don't come here, you are not supposed to come here. In truth, the deputy governor can be said to have power to move around the whole state, to monitor the process as a sitting executive. But yes, the electoral law does not allow for such movement. But when there are calls, like you said, the executive must respond, either by going there directly or by directing the security agencies to go there. And I just imagine a situation where the deputy governor wanted to exercise the powers in his hands. And then there will be an altercation. There will be physical shootout. And everybody among the two of them had policemen attached to themselves. What is happening in the country is a shame that two powerful men protected by Nigerian police or Nigerian army were confronting each other. And you can see the two sides well guarded, everybody carrying arms. Yes, and they were now waiting for order from them.
My apologies.
It's a shame.
Let's take it to Mr. Makri. Mr. Makri, if you can do this in 1 minute, we'll appreciate your last thoughts.
1 minute might not be enough, but...
Yeah, we've got time, because we have to move on. Yes.
Geoffrey, this is a serious business. The business of nation building is a multi-stakeholder obligation of every citizen. And so for that reason, my proposal, this is my proposal, that there should be a clearing call for electoral reform national confab. Let's have electoral reform national confab, where people will gather, allowing these people that find their way into parliament by all means to think that they are going to give us any befitting documents that will affect, the conduct of election in this country might not, provide a solution. Let's have a confab on this particular matter, where people will come from all walks of life across board, and we deal with the matter and force the parliament to make it a law. That is just my proposal.
Well, Mr. Makri, well said yet again. I think we must look inwards. All of these things happening around the same time is yet another pointer that we have a lot of work to do. Mr. Giwa, I'm looking at the court's, the federal court's judgment, and I see what the Honorable Justice did there, referring to the previous decision of the IAD on subversion and arrest, saying that the decision is not unreasonable, and the application for the judicial review must therefore be dismissed. So it's almost like the judge said something without saying it. Sort of upheld the decision of the IAD, the analysis on those parties, and then said, well, I don't need to look at it yet again. Let us just move on. But I think that is a great place to anchor in this, just to give Nigerians more insight on that case. We have to thank you so much. We've been speaking with Mr. Victor Giwa, legal practitioner, who has provided the much-needed insight into that case in Canada. He's also the National Coordinator Advocates for People Rights and Justice. And by the way, I should say, he also monitored the weekend's by-elections. So thank you so much for your time, Mr. Victor Giwa, as well as Mr. Mark Jacob, PDP former legal advisor, and Bishop Makri, who is YPP national chairman. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you. But please try and make that correction you made earlier, because your information goes so viral that the ADC thought in Anambra is not true. So well, please help correct it.
Mr. Makri, that has been corrected just before I came to, and you referenced that, you admitted that. But let's just show Nigerians yet again the result from Anambra South Senatorial District, just to show you again that result over the weekend. Yes, the YPP came third and the ADC came fourth. So they see that result. The APGA with 90,000, APC with 19,000, and YPP with 6,538. So there you have it, the results from the by-elections. But we have more on the conduct of that election in a moment. Please stay with us.
Let's talk to the people that are more interested in the process than who wins and who doesn't win. Cynthia Mbamalu, Program Director at Yaga Africa, joining us virtually, as well as Kunle Lawal, Executive Director, Electoral College Nigeria. Gentleman and lady, we must thank you for your patience. Thank you very much. Cynthia, And Kunle, thank you for staying with us. So Cynthia, I'm, you know, always on the field, both of you, trying to check out what exactly plays out. The politicians will do what politicians do, even though we can argue about that pattern back and forth. From what you've seen in terms of conduct, so let me start with you, Cynthia. INEC's performance and then security agencies' performance. What do you make of the last by-election?
Well, good morning again. I think there is, we get to a stage where you begin to ask yourself questions like, how do we proceed? Is there any possibility for achieving a truly transparent process? And I say this is all sense of responsibility, not because the elections were the worst we've had, no, but because there are certain things that we expect that at this stage are already, should be norm when it comes to elections management and conduct. Overall, it was a relatively peaceful process, except for some constituencies in some states where there were some issues of thugs trying to, disrupt the process at the poll in some polling units, but it wasn't widespread. So we would say overall it was a relatively peaceful process, except for those isolated cases. I'll put as that, and so that's one. But we need to move beyond just having a relatively peaceful process to a process that can inspire trust in the system. And I'll just take a simple example with the issues on uniformity or compliance with the electoral guidelines, the INEC's guideline on elections and the Electoral Act, and issues around uniformity of process, because that's very important and key. And I'll use a simple, because one major challenge we're beginning to have and experience is the process of results management, the result management process. If you go to the INEX results viewing portal, for instance, you would notice the disparities when it comes to how polling unit results were uploaded for different constituencies or polling units from different constituencies. There are some constituencies where you are having as high as 99 or 98 point something percent uploads. Some polling units, some constituencies where you're having less than 50 or barely 80 something percent upload. And I know people would say, oh, the Supreme Court judgment made the IREV a bit, not as a bit, how do I put it, or undermine the power of the IREV. But the truth is the Electoral Commission had in its guideline provided that for results management, that process of electronic collation is also still part of the elections guideline. And so the bigger question is, why do you have better compliance in some regions and less compliance in some other? Is INEC willfully stepping aside its guidelines when the guidelines are still operative? Because the thing is, if there's been an amendment, then there's a difference, but it's still operative. And that's one. And this is part of the bigger question on compliance. So if you think around the application of rules of overvoting, for instance, decisions around overvoting and cancellation of ballots, it becomes a bit problematic where it seems there's a lot of discretion when it comes to deciding which locations you'd have cancellation due to overvoting and which locations you would review and adopt a result that in its face is seemingly overvoting. And so for me, the bigger question when it comes to our elections is no longer saying it was relatively peaceful, because we expect elections to be peaceful normally. It is an abnormality to say elections are not peaceful. The normal situation should be elections are peaceful. So that's one. The bigger question on the process is, one, that there is due compliance with our Electoral Act and INEC's guideline on the elections, and there is uniformity in compliance across board. That way, it creates a semblance of sanity and transparency in the process. The other bigger question is the role political parties play. Because I listened to the earlier segment, and I think every political party should learn to start taking accountability and responsibility for their role in undermining the credibility of the process or in disrupting the process. Because the truth is, there is no one party that is a saint. If you look at how the results were churned out, locations where a ruling party is a stronghold, there was a likelihood that where the ruling party was, where a party was a ruling party at the state level, likelihood that they were winning all the constituency offices, except a few cases. I think that was Adamawa, that was even an exception, but it was almost a given. And so when you have political parties coming and blaming each other. I think we've gotten to a point where parties should actually take responsibility on how they have undermined the process due to their desperation to win power at all costs. Because normally elections ought to be very competitive. The reasons you still see vote buying happen is because parties do not trust the process, so they want to use monies to influence the outcome. The reason you have issues where thugs still come into play is because parties do not trust the process and want to use power and force to change the outcome. And the reasons you still have all of this going, because the question is also around security, is because consistently where there's been a lot of this infringement and violation of the law, we've not had adequate arrest by the police, who are deployed to manage the election security. You've not had a lot of arrest. You've not had people held accountable for their actions. So every electoral cycle, we're repeating these. And I think at this point, it's almost getting tiring that we're talking about the same issues over and over again. Right. And moving forward to the next, we have an Anambra election coming up in November, subsequent off-cycle elections next year before the general elections. I honestly think it's time for INEC to really tell citizens the truth. Do you want a system that would inspire confidence at all, across board? Do you want to administer a process that restores trust in Nigeria's democracy? That's a fundamental question they need to ask themselves. And this is INEC both at the leadership level and at every level, because at the end, they are foot soldiers deployed to the field who get the work done. So it's a question for INEC as an institution, but then to our police officers, to our security agencies, not just the police, anyways, to our security agencies, are you willing to secure the sanctity of the vote in ensuring that those who violate the process are duly arrested and prosecuted? Because that is the reason why the impunity has continued.
Well, Cynthia, let me come in now and take this to Kunle Lawal.
And then to our political class, honestly,
Cynthia, if you can hear me,
they should stop this.
Let me come in quickly and bring in Kunle Lawal so we can have this back and forth. And I just want to bring in the debate around the Canadian court's judgment on subversion and the rest. I don't think it's a coincidence that that particular judgment came out now, even though the pronouncement was made months ago. I wonder for you if we have improved in the build-up to not just Anambra, but 2027. Have we improved from where we're coming from? And what really is the biggest challenge for you, aside some of the points that Cynthia has made as well, particularly from this last by-election?
Okay, thank you very much, Kaldi. First and foremost, I think what's critical for us to understand is that Nigeria has not really changed much in elections. And because we haven't really changed much in elections, I think what happens the most in an election in Nigeria is always a situation where a politician or a political party gets to do what it wants to do, and the rhetoric go to court comes into play because they would not be held liable for what they've done. For me, I think that's the biggest problem in our election. Nobody's being held liable for anything. And there was a situation in Adama, and Adama had a close photo finish. And I had a party chieftain with beavers and whatever. Yes, it was reported. The person was arrested by the police. But that's usually where the story dies. So as long as there's no responsibility or accountability by INEC to the people of Nigeria when you have people like this being arrested, or when we have like the situation in Kano where we had 280 about people were arrested with weapons and etc. We will hear they were arrested, the police accosted them. There's no conversation after. And this has gone on for long enough. And I think because of this repertoire in our operations or in INEC's operations, or generally within our elections, it is seen as the norm, as perpetuate, and nothing will happen. There will be no outcome and nothing would go on. I would say you can also count on, and this is also not mentioned much, because of this mistrust, you can also count on poor participation in the election by the electorate, because the numbers you're seeing are quite abysmal. 15,000 win a House of Reps seat. It's really funny. But now this mistrust has built a situation where people don't participate in elections. And for you to perpetrate such acts you have to have a low voter turnout, so you can go, if I can use the word, gangster during the election day. So a lot of these factors have come, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any change in 2027. So I'd like to say clearly, INEC has, how do I put it, pulled the big dog that doesn't bite the move, or generally with the Electoral Act, and it hasn't taken actions. I believe that political parties too have become very irresponsible, and it's anything to power. That's the new conversation. Like Cynthia rightly put out, any state where the stronghold is, let's say, a particular party, the outcome in the by-elections followed that trend. And that's because, of course, it means that indirectly that executive might is being used to back up elections. And that's not a democracy. It's no longer a democracy at that point, because you're now influencing the will of the people. You are influencing the outcome of an election, and you're indirectly subverting an entire process. So I think we need to look into that more.
Thanks, yeah. Kunle has raised a very valid and concerning point, which is where all of us are on the same table. Politicians may not necessarily be on this table, because for them, they have to win. They have to do what they have to do to win. But institutions like ours, as media, as civil society organization, as INEC, is to make sure that we insist on the process being fair, being credible, and being transparent. I'm just looking at the Anambra South Senatorial District. Registered voters is over 800,000. Registered voters in that senatorial, over 800,000. Guess what? Just barely over 100,000 showed up to vote. How do we correct this?
This is a big question, and I'm glad when Kunle mentioned we are not looking at the impact on how voters participate on all of these flaws in our process. Honestly, you said we're all on the same table except the politicians, because the truth is a lot of work has gone into trying to strengthen the process, strengthen INEC's independence, get voters to care enough to show up to vote. But it's almost like the more work you do to strengthen the process, to advance democratic principles, the greater threats our politicians, our political class deploy to undermine the effort and to take us backwards. And it's quite unfortunate. Voter turnout now is now like almost a song we sing every elections. Anambra, unfortunately, has consistently recorded lower turnouts. The governorship elections and then also the by-elections you have. In November, I'm not expecting a miraculous turnout of voters, because the truth is a lot of citizens have disengaged or have given up in the process. You hear people tell you that why vote? They already know the outcome of the elections. Our votes don't count. And it's worrying, because when citizens start to lose trust or disengage from the process, then it's no longer democracy. It means they start looking for an alternative to democracy. So for me, the bigger question, especially as we head to the next elections, is how do we begin to reimagine democracy in a way that we get a lot more citizens to start to ask the right question. The second is the kind of reforms that will happen between now and the next elections, which includes the kinds of appointments that will go into INEC, because one way to inspire trust is to show that the institution itself is transparent and is led by a leadership that has integrity, is non-partisan, and is competent with the requisite capacity. And so the demand for a new INEC is key, because the appointment will be happening soon. And Mr. President has a responsibility to take that moral high ground to say, okay, at least I want to ensure that the process is credible. Because if an administration believes that they are doing their work, then they would not be afraid of a credible process, because the performance legitimacy is what will determine the outcome of the elections. And so for me, I do believe that as Nigerians, we need to start to make the right demands now. Whomever would be appointed to INEC must be individual, both as chair and then the commissioners that need to be filled next year must be individuals of requisite capacity, competence, and integrity, who are non-partisan. They've not been associated with any political party in the past. That's one. Citizens trust a process when they believe that the umpire is independent and credible. And so that for me is key. The other part is a call to Nigerians, because when looking at the court decision and the individual seeking asylum and the fact that was presented as a guarantee, I understand Nigerians getting frustrated with the system and looking for greener pastures, but I do believe that systems are built by people. And so if we need our system to work, we, the people of Nigeria, would have the responsibility to build that. Nobody is going to come and get Nigeria fixed for us. We would fix that. And I think if we have a general consensus as a people to say we want the process to work, we turn out in our numbers. When you turn out in higher numbers, it's difficult to manipulate. And I think Kunle mentioned that, because if you're higher in number at the polling unit, it's difficult to change and manipulate the result. And so turning out in our numbers could actually be the one way to help curtail the excesses of our political parties. And as it is now, Nigeria's future democracy is in the hands of Nigerians. Our political leaders, a lot of them have failed. A lot of them, their interest is more personal than national. And so to ensure that we protect this country, I think there's a lot of burden on Nigerians to begin to make the right call, to make the right demand. We cannot sleep on our rights. We need to be vigilant now, because the next elections is about the future of Nigeria's democracy. And it begins with the kind of umpire that we would have moving into the elections.
Well, they always say that the people get what they deserve in that sense. So you talked about the Nigerian people, and maybe we should just push this forward. I know Kunle is always very particular about that. So what do the Nigerian people need to hear again that they've not heard? What more convincing? Because for a lot of the Nigerian people, they either belong to the group of people who don't see anything good coming out of elections, so they stay away. There are those who actually actively participate in those elections, either for good or for evil, as the case may be, right? And when we talk about election violence, there are people who are involved in election violence. They are not demons. They are people, part of us. And when we talk about voter apathy, of course, they are people as well. So whichever way you look at it, people are involved. So what more can we tell Nigerian people? And is there a way you can maybe compartmentalize it so each group of people get the message that you have for them?
Okay, Kadi, you're giving me quite a hard job right now, but I'll attempt to do that. So the first message I would say should go to those in executive power. That's the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the National Assembly. Now, it's amazing, and not because I belong to this set of people, but it's amazing that you have people who have participated in elections for more than 15 years, who have worked in the system, who have helped improve the Electoral Act. You've never picked one of them to be an INEC chairman. I don't know why that's so. I find that funny. I think somebody like Cynthia would do very well as an INEC chairperson for the first time, having a woman there. But anyway, that goes to show that they don't pick from, the crop of people that actually understand this process. And this is not to attack anybody from a university or whatever, but this is to broaden the perspective. Done it in particular way with university people. Why don't we do people that have experience on the field, or people who actually understand the Electoral Act, or who actually understand what messing one part of the system means? That's what the president. Now, to political parties. Power has always been something people go to any lengths for. I agree that political parties go to whatever lengths, and like Cynthia rightly said, there's no saint among them. I've even clearly said anybody with over 1 million votes allegedly has put his hands somewhere into something, which we know because we're on the field. But political parties need to draw up something. I don't see any political party in Nigeria lasting beyond the interests of its present perceived buyers. If that is without mentioning anybody's name, I just explained the whole thing. We don't build any legacy institutions. Political parties are not built to be legacy institutions. They're just built as vehicles to an office and nothing else. No basis, not known for anything, not putting down a particular level of ideology or something. It's not like these ideologies do not exist, but they don't care, and it doesn't change anything. So I think political parties need to be held liable for making the greatest mistake in Nigeria's democracy. That is what I'll put forward to political parties. Now, the Nigerian electorate. I know it's hard. It's hard to believe in democracy in Nigeria, especially with the way things pan out. But like I said earlier, you can only rig an election when you're not fully participating. That's the time. We need that when 20,000 people belong, there's 10,000 people belong to a polling unit, and 9,999 are there. It's going to be very hard to rig it. It's in short impossible because even with returning the results, 9,999 people know what the result was at that point, and that's the way. Last time we had close to 50% participation in elections. An incumbent president was removed. So that was 2015. Right now, performing below 24, 25%. So totally sad and appalling. So Nigerians need to believe that this country is theirs and does not belong to the politicians. Tell you if your vote doesn't count, why do they try to buy it? That's the argument. If your vote really doesn't count and you think it doesn't count or to dictate the outcome, why then are they trying to buy your votes? Which critically says that your vote is important. So I pray Nigerians try to get out of this quagmire and try to participate in elections. I hope I've been able to cover that in a nutshell. Thank you.
All right, Cynthia, I know that we wanted to exclude the politicians from this matter, but, they're also on the table. They have to be forced one way or the other. But in closing, I would like you to maybe try to speak to young people. Now the portal is open today for CVR, continuous voter registration, which we are going to demonstrate as well as show people. As INEC has said, is ready for it to start today. Young people yet again, you know what happened in the last election? We saw that aggressive participation for the first time. I know this generation, their span of attention is quite low. When they want something, they want it done now and now. If they don't have it, they just go to be discouraged. Now that the opportunity will present itself again, what are you going to say to them?
I think this is a call to every young Nigerian, especially the Gen Zs who mostly would be first-time voters, to actually take this opportunity to register. The online pre-registration begins today, the INEX portal. Register for those who need to transfer, replace, or correct anything. The opportunity is now to do that. And that's because the truth is, for every young Nigerian, yes, there are those that may successfully jackpot, as we call it, but you cannot, no matter where you go to, home is still home, and Nigeria is still ours to build. And it's important that we understand the generational call, is what I always want to give it. The generational call to ask yourself, for every generation, what do we want to do differently? And I've seen the power of youth. I keep talking about the last Ghanaian elections. I observed in different communities in the northern region, and I saw 18-year-old, 19-year-olds doing door-to-door campaign to mobilize first-time voters. I was inspired to see students go out of their ways to do that. And you could see the outcome of that election. Now, I'm just saying that there's power in youth vote, but it's about young people understanding that the power is actually within them. Register, get your permanent voters card, and get ready for the next election. This is the period to actually start engaging the electoral process, get informed, ask the right questions, and begin to make your voices heard. At the end of the day, for every young person, you have a longer time to live in the system. And so it's better I start to work so that the lives we have would actually be quality. As it were, some of these politicians, okay, as well, nature has it, not everyone will live forever. So for younger people, there's a bigger call to every one of us. Surely the Gen Zs, please, you guys are the future and the present. Get registered, get ready to vote.
Thank you so much. When you were saying something, something crossed my mind, the lighter side. I hardly see politicians jackpot, but Cynthia Mbamalu, Program Director, Yaga Africa, as well as Kunle Lawal, Executive Director, Electoral College, Nigeria. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. All right, let's tell you that the CVR registration starts today. That's the continual voter registration announced by INEC starts today. So if we can go straight to the poster first, let's get straight to the poster first and get to see, before we see this demonstration, let's get to the information on the poster. Oh dear, we're already ahead of this. Anyway, this is just a demonstration. But if you can go to the slide, just the slide, before we get to the demonstration, let's get to the slide. Oh boy, okay. If you go to the INEC website, okay, this is what we're talking about. So that captures the entire information. Nationwide continuous voter registration. So you can see this category of people. New voters, 18 plus is your opportunity. Collect or transfer your PVC. Maybe you change location in terms of address, in terms of city, state. Replace your lost or damaged PVC, or multiple registration. All of the things that has to do with the anomalies around your PVC. This is the time. But more importantly for me is young voters. So if you can go back to a quick demonstration, if you go to their website, cvr.inec, yes, that's the website, as it is, .org, and you click, it takes you to this page. You can see the page, it asks you to get started, and then you can scroll up. This is for new pre-registration. You just start registration, can tell you to sign up with your social media or so, and then you log in with your email. But beneath all of this, you're going to see details of what you feel and all of that. If you're a new registrar, if you're registering for the first time, beneath that you'll see all the details, your email, your names, and all of that. So, yes, please, let's take this opportunity and do the right thing. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll switch gears to issues around humanitarian crisis, you know, the issues around Mokwa. After that incident of flood, monies were promised, presidential and federal government intervention. What has happened after that? It's a big question. We want to ask the questions for you in just a moment. Join us again.
Well, let's touch base with the humanitarian situation in parts of the country that have been affected either by natural disasters or insecurity. Mokwa comes to mind, for example, a town in Niger State that was affected by flooding in June. It literally swept the town. Buildings swept. The bridge also affected. Sadly, lives were lost in that very sad incident as well. But what is the situation in Mokwa as we speak? Because there's been a lot of talk and donations here and there for Mokwa. Just recently, President Tinubu approved 16.7 billion naira for immediate reconstruction of Mokwa Bridge. We've also seen lots of donations from Nigerians, governments, and the rest. We're joined on the program this morning by Mr. Steve Aluko of Civil Liberties Organization, joins us virtually on the program. Welcome to the morning brief, Mr. Aluko. All right, we'll get a connection with Mr. Aluko in a moment, but just to show you the situation. This is the reality for a lot of people. Mokwa particularly, there's still, sadly, the aftermath, the very present aftermath of that flooding in Mokwa, and we're not leaving anybody behind on the program this morning. There have been promises made, monies disbursed, but how effective have these interventions been in assisting IDPs in Mokwa, in Benue, in Plateau? These are the questions to be asked, because the optics come, Jeffrey. The pictures are taken, the videos, the handshakes, the commiserations. But more importantly, are the people receiving at least the effect of those commiserations? That's what we hope to find out on the program this morning.
Yeah, primarily we want to check in on the progress made since the devastating incident that left many homeless, displaced, lives lost in the process. Nature's wrath took its toll on Mokwa community. We were all witnesses to all of this. For days, we covered it. We reported live on the scene. I think even the vice president made his way down there to, show support and commiserate with the families of those who have lost loved ones. But this is, I think this picture is from June or so. This was...
Yeah, the event happened in May,
August,
but this is some of the latest pictures.
These are some of the latest pictures coming in from Mokwa that we're seeing. So we're showing you, update as to whether or not all of the rhetorics, promises made, assurances given, confidence built, amounted to anything. So you can see for yourself, the place is still technically the way it was as at the last time. Why we invited them is to find out whether the times of relief to the persons who are affected, have they even gotten relief? So there's a dimension of direct support to the families. There's a part of rebuilding the infrastructure, maybe some housing unit and all of that. So all of this detail, we hope our guests... Can you hear us now, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, we do not have much time anymore. So we'll just allow you to speak for about 2-3 minutes and give us an update of what exactly, when that thing happened, the sad incident happened, everybody poured in, government at all levels made promises. So what can you give us as an update? Have the people been receiving the support they need, level of it? We're seeing live pictures, by the way, so maybe you can give us, since you're the one on ground.
Okay, from what we've seen thus far on the plateau, yes, there is IDP camps, some are transient and some are permanent. In terms of response from government, we've seen some level of visitation by government personnel. And in terms of relief material, a good number of them have also got it. From the first tranche that came in from the first lady's office, that is the 500 million, as squarely it was for the widow, and names were gotten, and at the end of the day, check were also issued to them directly in the tranche of 1 million for every one of them. And then the second tranche of 1 million that have also come in, the names is being collated at different level, and different critical organizations are also involved. At the state government level, the governor have also tried his own best within in terms of and then sometimes also have a but the challenge there is that of coordination, and beyond that is that of durable settlement of the people. A good number of them have been helped on the basis of empathy from their relative and the rest of the board. The major challenge is how to durably settle these people back to their ancestral land is a major challenge. And then we've also seen in some instances, especially in Mushiri, where government have also constructed route to give accessibility to a lot of communities that have also been affected. Largely speaking, much is needed because of the quantum of destruction of life and property.
Well, we'd like to thank you for that update. There's so much more to explore from the situation there. But because of the connection difficulties, we have to thank you so much. We've been speaking with Mr. Steve Aluko of the Civil Liberties Organization. He's been keeping tabs on the humanitarian situation in this part of the country. Thank you so much for your time and for the work that you put in. Well, let's also tell you Nigeria's D Tigers are doing some great work. The AfroBasket, they've won 3 matches now out of 3, and they're through to the quarterfinals. We've celebrated the women, the D Tigresses, who went on to win the 5th title.
But that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma.
And just to say that we reached out to the APC on the conversation around the by-elections, but it couldn't show. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get representation from them, as well as ADC and other parties who participated. But we have to thank you so much. Sunrise Daily is next. I'm Kayode Okikulu. Have a great Monday.